Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and today is October 12th, and welcome you to the Commission's Court for this day. We're very pleased and happy to have Pastor Jeff Ponder of First Baptist Church in Bushland here with us. He's going to open up the court section with the word of prayer. All right, please.
Let's pray together. Father, we are grateful and thankful for the day you've given us, and God, we acknowledge that you're the maker of the day and the giver of life, and we thank you so much for that. And we pray, Father, your blessings on our time together as we meet. Thank you so much for Judge Nancy Tanner and her court, and all the commissioners who serve this county so well, Father. I just pray your blessings on them, your covering over their home and their family and their marriages, Father. I just pray that you'll bless them in the service they give to the county. And I just pray you give them wisdom and guidance as they make decisions that affect so many lives, Father, that you would give them wisdom that comes from you. And God, again, thank you for our time together. Thank you for a beautiful morning. Thanks for waking us up this morning and giving us life. And just pray your blessings on our day in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, first order of business will be the approval of the minutes. First of all, for those of you who haven't noticed, Judge Tanner and Commissioner Shelley is not with us this morning, so we're a little light, but no less determined and focused. So we'll proceed with what it is. First order of business, approval of minutes. Recognize the minutes from the September 28th, 2015 Blount County Commissioners Court meeting. Second, so recognized.
I would like to make one suggestion.
Okay.
Item 13, in regards to the interpreter rate charge, it says that I moved that we increase the rate for interpreter service to 110, and that this rate be based on the hourly rate other than that. And I think it should be rather than.
Okay, we'll go back and look at that.
Yeah. Because
Check it out and I'll go
they were charging by the person rather than by hour.
Okay.
So recognize with that noted correction and terminology.
We'll just go back and listen to it.
Item number 2, the budget amendment is to consider and act upon the budget amendment for the fiscal year 2015-16 period.
Our constable in precinct 2 did not have a taser. One of the previous constable had was the first one, so we needed to shuffle some those points to make sure she had a taser.
You're all folks down and sit.
Hey, Commissioner, I would like to say thank you to the Sheriff's Office who has one on loan to her currently because of an incident in the courtroom. So I would like to just say thank you to them for allowing us to use that in the interim. I make a motion that we accept the budget amendments as presented.
Second, sir.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the budget amendment as presented. All in favor, show of hands. Passes 3-0. Item number 3 is the vouchers. It is considered an act upon the approval of the payment of vouchers processed by the County Auditor's Office for the period of September 23rd, 2015 to October 7th, 2015 in the amount of total checks of 164,753 through 165,030 and wire number 619 through 619 in the total amount of $2,051,905.64.
I would like to mention that there are 2 checks included in the vouchers that have individual line items in our agenda today. That's check number 165022 and 165023. That the disbursement of those checks will be put on their action in the individual line item, or individual agenda items.
Has the work been done on any of those? Such as the decal, has that work already been done?
And as a
Judging
discussion,
by the photo in the packet.
Has not been done?
Yes.
No, sir.
So we pay up front. So that's the way we do that.
On the her graphics,
Yeah,
the work will be done as soon as y'all approve her graphics. Y'all have to approve the graphics first.
it just seemed funny, we were approving an expense and yet later on, we we're gonna approve the graphics. Okay,
so moving forward is the amount of take those and, the operator.
I move we approve the vouchers as presented.
Second for discussion. I have one quick question, page 16 of 39, check number 164961. There are several line items, 1,953 is the total, and a couple of them are slotted to the sheriff's office and one to the district attorney. Are these books that we're ordering? It's Texas Criminal and Traffic Law, I'm assuming so, but I didn't know how that played with our previous agenda item several courts ago about the online books and whether we were moving, if this was included or completely separate item.
I'm not sure we have any vendor products online. Do we?
I don't think so.
If I understand right, I think those are books from TCAA, not from West.
What is the difference, Scott? Would you help kind of guide me?
Oh, yeah, no, since we went to Westlaw,
Yes.
Matthew Bender is a LexisNexis provider, so that was not being included in our package under Westlaw.
And the sheriff didn't have access to the online anyway, it's our attorneys. They have our online subscription.
These are books provided to the deputies of patrol car. They got a little penny code.
More like.
Reference type, like pocketbooks, guides.
No, they're the big thing, has everything in it.
Okay.
That are in the actual patrol units? And they reference those while out on patrol?
Yeah, unless you look up to see what the penal code says, that you have to have the elements, whatever. They do use that as a reference. Plus our investigators, even out there at the jail, they go to the handbook and have that book.
Right, thank you.
I have one question on this, in this for purchasing, stationery supplies. Do we allow departments to go out and just get what they want if they need it? Or did we have to, we have a bid, don't we, that you went through?
It depends on what it is. We, office-wise, through LA Russell has most of everything on there, but Office Depot also has a contract, so we have multiple contracts we can purchase off depending on what's cheaper, what they actually need, if they can't find one.
Okay, do they come to you and ask if they can go somewhere else?
Not always, and especially if they have a credit card.
I just noticed there was a Sam's Club purchase. Looked like it was stationery and supplies. I wondered if that was.
It depends on what they're purchasing. I
don't know. It just says it's. Okay. That's all I have.
Nothing else, it's been motion and seconded to approve the vouchers with the noted customs. All those in favor, your hands. Passes 3-0. Item number 4 is insurance report. Steve Aiken recognize the insurance report. Kay, you ready?
No, sir, nothing unusual.
Thank you. Item number 5 is workers' compensation insurance, and it's to hear a report from Steve Lapp with Willis of Texas regarding workers' compensation insurance renewal for 2015-16, and May is to consider and act upon the recommendation to award the workers' compensation contract to Texas Political Division Subdivision for the amount of $164,091 for the period of November 1st, 2015 through October 31st, 2016. This fee includes the fee for Willis HRH as the county's broker to be paid separately by the county. And item B, authorize Potter County judge to sign the order to bind workers' compensation, addendum to service agreement and necessary. Steve.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. This year was the year that we went out for an RFP. We did a formal RFP for workers' compensation. We've been with Texas Political Subdivisions for 3 years under a guaranteed rate structure. The rate structure was guaranteed, but they had a lot of factors, the experience mod factor, and then they had a fund factor that was adjustable every year. So even though the rates were guaranteed in the previous years, the premium could change based on our experience. So we went out to RFP, we went to 13 different companies. We received 3 competitive quotes. One was our incumbent, Texas Political Subdivisions. One was DB's Texas Self-Insurance Fund, and the other one was Texas Association of Counties. We are recommending to stay with Texas Political Subdivisions at a savings over last year of $16,160. Not only did they give us the savings over last year, they guaranteed the premium. They set the experience mod, they set the fund factor, they set the rates constant for 3 years, and they waived the audit. So as our payroll goes up, the premium is set for 3 years. So it's a much improved contract over the previous years. It's $25,000 lower than our next best option, which is DB's Texas Self-Insurance Fund. They guaranteed the rate for 5 years. They guaranteed the premium for 5 years. And then Texas Association of Counties gave us a quote of $203,223. So we are recommending to stay with Texas Political Subdivisions and guarantee the premium for 3 years.
Okay, I just have one question, if I may. In terms of processing any of these workers' comp claims, what has your experience been like just from a customer service end? I just want to make sure we're not looking at just the dollars, what that is like efficiency for your office.
We have had excellent customer service with TPS over the course of this 3-year period. I have no complaints. They're very responsive, and we have a team of individuals that we work with regularly on our workers' comp. I have no reservation at all with continuing with TPS.
And I noticed there's a document in here, it was part of the RFP quote summary where it broke down the classification of employee types. I thought that was really helpful with our discussion about salary control points, if you will, that we've been discussing for several years. But this particular breakdown caught my eye for that discussion. So I wanted to bring that to your attention as well. So it was helpful for me.
Move we approve the recommendation to award the workers' compensation contract to Texas Political Subdivision for $164,091, period of November 1st, 2015 through October 31, 2016, 3-year guarantee on that premium.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve of the noted first for Texas Political Subdivision. And all those in favor? Passes 3-0. And B here is just to authorize the county judge to sign the order to bind workers' compensation and to service agreement if necessary.
I'll make that motion to authorize Judge Tanner to sign the order to bind workers' compensation addendum to service agreement.
Second.
And motion and seconded to authorize, to have authorization of the Carter County judge to sign the order to bind workers' compensation addendum to service agreement if necessary. Those in favor? Okay. Passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6 is the local government corporation. It is to provide an update on the local government corporation. Commissioner.
We had an LGC meeting October 7th, so last Tuesday, if I remember correctly, with a new slate of attendees in the room. So the city council has recently appointed new members to join the LGC. It was the annual meeting, and so the committee consisted of election of new officers. So those officers that I wanted to report back to the commission, president is Judge Brian Poff of the LGC, vice president is Sunny Hodge Campbell, who is also acting chair for running the meetings. Treasurer will be Michelle Bonner, as she currently is for the city finances, helping in that supportive role, and the secretary, Francis Hibbs. So it was very new, LGC, kind of different discussions. The next LGC meeting, Judge Poff specifically asked for a couple of agenda items to look at the bylaws, and he was specifically asking for the ex officio seats. So as you know, Potter County has an ex officio seat. We only have one, we do not have a voting seat currently. So all that will go up for discussion again for the full LGC. So as that happens, I'll continue to bring updates to each of you.
As it pertains to the ex officio seat, sitting in that, or sitting in that?
I am sitting in that role, yes, Commissioner. And that's all the updates I have.
Item number 7, is Potter County Memorial Stadium maintenance and improvements. It is to consider an act upon authorizing water utilities to be used for upcoming events at the stadium and to consider a procedure for future events. B, 7 is to consider an act upon approval of expenditures for concession stand and other proposed expenditures.
We met with Commissioner Maria and Commissioner Kelly and myself. Mike Head met with Stephanie Tucker last week and to talk about a couple of issues in the stadium that were a little bit pressing because they are trying to, they being Thunderheads, are trying to have a concert, an outdoor event at the end of October, which is a little risky, but they're gonna try to see how it works. And so, and they're allowed to do that, but they need water in order to do that. We typically turn the water off in the stadium actually about the 1st of October. So we're a little overdue, but Mike had agreed to wait until this meeting. And so we worked out an arrangement for this year, subject to your approval, that we will leave the water on until the end of, until November the 2nd. And that'll give, weather permitting, and that'll give time for the facility to have the game, the concert. And we need the water for restrooms and for concessions. And so, hoping that we'll have good weather, but we'll let them keep the water on until November the 2nd, and that'll give us time to turn it on and off properly. Then going forward, we agreed that we would recommend that our procedure be to leave the water on until the October the 15th of every year going forward at least. And that gives them time to have an event that they have every year after the 1st of October with Fellowship of Christian Athletes out there. And that's enough of a regularly scheduled event that they know it'll be occurring. And so Mike said that would be fine. So we're gonna do that going forward. And this year, if there's any damage to, if we do have a freeze, who knows, it could still happen. And there is damage to the water pipes, the ballpark will, the team will assume responsibility for those repairs. That would probably be valves and things that would be relatively inexpensive, not lines. But so again, we're going to kind of cross our fingers and hope that doesn't happen so they get that concert in. So that's that item right now. And so we prepared a letter that we agreed that on approval we'd do a letter and send it to them. And not really amending the lease because we're just doing it this 1 year. But I'm going to send a letter to Stephanie and they will sign off on it, agreeing to the terms of leaving the water on this year.
And that date for that concert again was?
The 29th, I believe, which is a Thursday night. It's Pat Green, so it's pretty good. I mean, it's gonna be a good concert. I mean, it'll be a good draw if they can pull it off, so.
Anything?
No, I haven't, the only piece I was gonna add, but Dave added that in the end in terms of if there were any repairs. So that was obviously Mike's root concern, and we wanted to be mindful of that too. So they've agreed to take that on, and I think there was some initial concern of what might happen should it freeze. And I think it was good discussion because we talked about any lead time. If we get notification of a freeze tomorrow, it's not just a matter of flipping the switch. There's a few day process to really prepare for that. So I think communication, close communication, we've agreed to meet next month to kind of reconvene So we're gonna really try to stay on that pattern, just to stay in open communication lines.
No, I'm all for it, let's do it.
I make a motion that we approve authorizing water utilities to be used for upcoming events at the stadium and to approve a procedure for future events as noted in the memorandum.
It's been moved and seconded to approve of the consideration to extend the contract out to the end of this month, 29th, and moving forward with the 15th of each month. Next four. All those in favor? Show of hands. Passes 3-0.
Just one quick correction, Commissioner, that the approval on the memorandum is through November 2nd. I just want to make sure we noted that for the record.
All right, item 8 is the regional public defender.
That was part two, I forgot about part two, I'm sorry.
To consider an act upon approving expenditures for concession stand and other proposed expenditures.
There is a, one of the critical part, and I think we've discussed this before here, the operation of concession stands out there. Because whoever uses that facility going forward, whether it's the county, the Tri-State Fair, or the baseball team, has to have a concession stand that's operable and will pass, that'll meet city code. And so we're working, that was one of the topics that we discussed, and some money has been allocated in the county's budget to do that, to do work, necessary work like that out at the stadium. And so what we've kind of come up with a plan to kind of address the concession stands once and for all. And as part of that, we've been given a list of the things that need to be done to bring it up to city code. And city is working with us and the team on this. And so once we get a plan in place, we're going to contact the city, and our plan is to have all the improvements done by May the 10th of next year. So what will happen, and it's really kind of informative more than anything else at this point. So what we are going to do is, Mike Head has the list. We've all got a copy of the list of things that need to be done. Mike is going to contact a contractor who's going to go out with that list and bring back a cost estimate of what it will take to do all that work. We've got a little less than $100,000 to work with in the budget. And so we want to rush that, so he said he would have those estimates for you to look at in November, at one of our November meetings. And then we will decide how that money can be spent, and we think we can do a good deal of the work for the money we have budgeted. And if there's any overage, the team will be responsible for that. And so we plan next November or next month to have estimates for you, and then we'll develop a plan going forward of how to get all that work done, bid it out, or whatever we have to do to make that happen, with the goal to having that all in place by May the 10th. And we're going to send a joint letter to the city, the environmental guys, saying, okay, they asked for a plan of how those are going to be taken care of, and so we're going to communicate with them shortly about that. And that's what we look at.
Does the team of the county oversee the management of the concession stands? Do you avoid those?
The team.
The team does.
So the team
That's
actually.
really how they make any money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This concession.
Yeah.
One thing I would add to Dave's comments is the dollars are budgeted, but when we completed the budget cycle, we didn't really go into detail who would do the work. And so I think there was confusion if the Thunderheads would go out for bid and then come back with invoices. We landed that it was probably in the best interest, since it is a county facility and we are using taxpayer dollars, that we should own getting that out to bid, and to make sure that that work is up to county standards is quite honestly the response that we gave back, is we wanted to make sure the work was really kind of true by the dollars that we were spending on it. So Mike took it on, thanks to him, because it's not a project he was expecting in this budget cycle. But he agreed that he thought that was the best interest of the county and gave us permission to relay that to the court. But he will be involved, and as Dave said, we'll get someone out there to reevaluate. He wanted us to make sure and communicate to the full court that this, like all of the projects, will be brought before the court before any expenses are made. I make a motion that we approve expenditures for concession stand and other proposed expenditures, dependent on Mike's response back to the court, Mike's proposal, probably a better word, back to the court.
Second that. It's been moved and seconded to approve of the expenditures for the concession stand. Was that what?
Without knowing what we're spending.
Depending on
Mike's proposal.
Yep, I added in language, pending Mike's proposal to the court.
So we don't have to approve that proposal. We just go ahead and spend it.
We don't know what it's gonna be yet. So, I mean, because we don't know what the costs are gonna be, or what really needs, is gonna need some major attention. And there's gonna be an alternate involved, or could be an alternate involved, which is rather than Mike's first thought was, and I hope I'm not out of my speaking to the motion.
I said, you talking about the wording or the
Mike's thought was that rather than repairing what needs repaired at the concession stands, it might be more cost efficient just to rip them out and redo them. But there are two that we're talking about. And he thinks, so he may come in with an alternate for you guys to look at. Here's what you do to fix it, here's what you do to replace it.
And I think for the language, and I can certainly adjust the language if that makes the court more comfortable. I think for the language, Mike is just looking for some language or direction from the courts that is our intent, that we want to evaluate those concession stands and move forward with expenditures.
Yeah, I think those people with that. Yeah.
Would you like, can I restate that, or do I need to? Okay, let me see if I remember what I just said. Rewind, just play that.
evaluation platform.
I make a motion that we authorize our facilities director to evaluate expenditures for concession stand and other related expenditures.
That's something. I'll just be second that. Motion, Laura, has been restated, that, the evaluation process, allowing the maintenance director to move forward and bring that back to the court, depending on the numbers that they come up for approval. No roundabout way of. Okay. Those in favor? Okay, passes 3-0. Item number 8, Regional Public Defender for Capital Case Interlocal Agreement. To consider and act upon renewal of an interlocal agreement with Lubbock County to participate in the Regional Public Defender Program. Okay.
This is a renewal of an existing contract, the Regional Public Defender, who has an office over in Santa Fe, I believe, can't remember where, but somewhere up there. We participate with several other counties. Lubbock is sort of the central coordinating county, so this is an interlocal agreement in the sense that that's why it reads Lubbock County, because Lubbock kind of runs it for everybody. It's a coalition of counties around in this area. We participate and equally and pay a proportionate share of the cost of the public defender in capital cases, who serves in certain capital cases. And I don't remember exactly when we first started doing this. It's been several years, I know, but our share of this comes to, it's in the attachment. As you can see, there are many counties.
20,000.
Yeah. So that's our share of that.
Gary, the only question I had on this is it reads that each county's participation costs are based upon funding from the Texas Indigent Defense Commission, their grant program. So we get that every 2 years, or do we have approval that we have it before we approve the contract?
Actually, the Public Defender's Office gets the money, so depending on how much they have to make up from what they get from the TIDC,
Okay.
determines our amount. And yes, they have already been awarded.
Okay, so this amount is what we would expect for this fiscal year?
In
Okay,
fact, that payment is one of the ones in the vouchers.
Okay. okay. I make a motion that we approve renewal of the interlocal agreement with Lubbock County to participate in the Regional Public Defender Program.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve of the interlocal agreement with Lubbock County. Those in favor? Passes 3-0. Okay, and number 9 is the county parking lots. And is to consider an act upon approving the distribution and use of parking stickers for county employees in order to help regulate parking on county lots.
This is something I think Judge Tanner would like to do, is go back to a system where we all get a sticker to put on our car. Now, that doesn't mean you can't park in the parking lot without a sticker, but it'll help us kind of keep track of, parking lot usage. It's gotten a little bit tight lately with the construction going on. In fact, there were a couple of days last week when you got here after 8 or 8:30, it was almost impossible to get a parking lot place for anybody, and even parking on the street was sort of at a premium. So I think that would be a good first step. And so I think we may want to talk about some other parking issues when she's back at our next meeting. But right now, we kind of wanted to get authority to allow us to do that. We did that before.
So this would be awarded to all county employees.
Yeah.
But it doesn't preclude you from parking in the parking lot without paying a sticker.
Right now, we don't anticipate changing the sign like for over here and say, parking for employees and basically public using the county facilities. So, I mean, jurors and people having business will still be able to park where they need to. I think Judge Tanner's asked all of us not to park on the street, employees if we can, in order to free those spaces up for members of the public coming in to do business in the courthouse. So that's helping some.
And I also did see an email from her indicating she'd asked the city to take the time restrictions off of the surrounding parking, so I think that's helped some as well.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Any more discussion on that?
I think we've got to address it somehow, it'll be a first step.
All right. I'll approve of the I'll make a motion to approving the distribution and use of parking stickers for vehicles of county employees in order to help regulate parking on county lots.
Okay.
Motion and seconded to approve of the stickers. Those in favor? Passes 3-0. Okay. As a first step. Item number 10. All right. I don't mind, we don't have a little discussion, we may want to pass this on.
Yeah, we've got some, since we put this on the agenda, we've got some feedback from other people in the building that don't want to get rid of that statute, so.
So what's the concern? They want to put it where?
That's a good question. I think Nancy was thinking down in the lobby of the courts building.
But not in the library.
Right. That's gonna be essentially court space pretty quick, but they can probably use the rooms. And we got visions of children who are coming up to CPS hearings, hanging on it, that kind of.
So is there a concern about, having it, I guess, basically one specific office and just having this left in the court proper? Or is it an ideal location in the court where that would,
Who owns the statute?
Technically,
The
we
county?
own it.
Okay.
Yeah, we own it. There's some thought that if we didn't need it, maybe just, consider that it had been loaned to us by the attorney that donated it to us and passed away, because there's people that now have his office that were asking for that. But actually, that's not the way the law really reads. We were just trying to think of an easy way to get rid of it. But technically speaking, that is our property, so we need to either auction it off if we keep it or if it's surplus property, we auction it off.
So,
Right, David? I mean, I guess so.
For donating to.
Or donate it to another county. So, yeah.
Is there a location that county employees have said they'd like for it to be? I mean,
I don't know. That's one reason I think we brought it.
okay.
all right, let's continue, we'll just pass that. until-
Yeah, I know. This all came up after we put it on the agenda.
Okay.
So,
Item number 11 is the law library and associate judge computers and related equipment. Made to authorize the relocation of 2 computers from the law library to the attorney's lounge in the courts building. And B, to authorize the acquisition or purchase of 3 computers and related equipment for the associate judge for CPS to be located in the space formerly occupied by the law library.
in connection with this, I think I've given you a copy of it. We're not ready to act on it yet, but the proposed interlocal agreement that we drafted up, with to look, and send over to the, city for them to review and approve as to, locating law terminals over at the city library, which will in effect be the county law library if it gets approved. And that's still pending approval with the city, but we've kind of got an agreement in principle. But this question, as a result, kind of related to that, as a result of that, we had 2 requests. County judge asked me to put this on the agenda about computers, both of which need approval of the Commissioners Court. And item A is, I think Judge Borden has asked for 2 computers from the law library to be located up in the attorney's lounge. I don't think they're anticipating, to my understanding, these being hooked into the law library. I think they're just computers for attorneys to use. Do you know anything about that?
Why wouldn't those 2 be used for the 3 that we need to purchase right underneath it?
I don't know. But I honestly don't know. I think I don't know why CPS is needed.
Okay, Judge Tanner, that is put on the, we're not sharing that. Tim, do you have any information that you want to
I know that, the associate judge wanted 3, I guess, for herself, her secretary, maybe, I don't know if there's another person in there, maybe a court reporter. I was there.
That's probably equivalent to that position. That's kind of what I thought on that. So y'all will need to approve that. I don't know that's budgeted.
It's not.
Yeah, so I would suggest the 2 that are possibly being vetted to move to the lounge area, that those be used to offset at least 2 of the 3 that they're asking for. Yeah, we're not required to do any of that, is that right? For the contract?
No.
So in good faith, if we have 2 that might be able to assist.
And there's been, I thought the request was we'll put computers there for lawyers to use the lounge. I don't think that's not what I heard was the request be. So, Jan, I don't think because they weren't asking to be, because we would have to get additional subscriptions to Westlaw and LexisNexis in order to make that happen. And there's been no request for that. So I think they just wanted computers up there for attorneys to use.
And it's budgetary.
My view of that is that I don't know that we have any obligation to do that. I'd like to hear a reason why that's
I think
needed.
Judge Tanner talked to Judge Ward, because he told somebody that he wanted 2 computers. We didn't figure out why, he thought he could just take the 2 computers. But then I'm hearing for this to be put in the lounge, but I think maybe Judge Tanner might have a little bit more information on it. But I
We should ask.
Okay, yeah, we can pass that.
Okay. 11, item 12. Road and Bridge security concerns, is to consider and act upon recommendations to improve security at the Road and Bridge Department, including installation of security cameras, authorized employees with concealed carry permits. Carry guns on the website.
Good morning. Well, what we're trying to do is just establish some kind of security out there. At the moment, all we have is 2 windows and a stapler to throw at somebody. But, making light of it, but we've had so many issues out there with transients and citizens and wild animals everything else. The other day, what brought this up was the other day, a transient, come to find out, was sleeping in the barn at the bottom of the hill. Well, somehow he walked up there without us noticing. It was in the morning, but we're always looking out the windows. And the road foreman walks out and he's leaning up against the door or behind the door and startled the road foreman. And apparently, after the deputies interviewed him, he was on some kind of narcotics or under the influence of something. Well, we ran him off anyway. That wasn't a bad situation. We ran him off. He went across the street to one of our employees' houses and he was going behind the house. So I had to go over there and run him off again. And then he went up the street and was banging on doors and looking through windows. Well, the deputies at the time were working a major car wreck, so they couldn't come. We called them first and they couldn't make it, but they made it there when he was going towards the city. And they interviewed him and stuff, but they couldn't hold him. But all we're asking for is some kind of security systems out there. Like I said, we've had issues with citizens that got so irate that we had to have the deputies escort them off the property. And then we've had people that applied for jobs, and Mr. Church knows this person was so irate, he left, and then he lives up the street. He came back about 10, 15 minutes later, and we thought he had something with him. Amy took off out the back door because she thought he had a weapon. She says he had something because he just took off up the street and came back. Well, luckily he didn't have anything, but he was real upset about not getting a job and stuff like that. But the law says that we can carry out there, but county policy says we can't. And that's where we're at. And Judge Tanner was aware of this. I told her about the situation, and she said, you guys don't have a gun out there or anything to defend yourself in case of? And I carry my weapon all the time. When I get home from work, I don't like walking in my house knowing I don't have no protection if somebody's in there. And that's the only thing. But I carry my weapon to throw the trash because people here in the city have gotten robbed in the alley. They've gotten stabbed. I mean, this is the world we live in today. And I understand gun control and all that other stuff, but that's all I'm saying.
So you're really asking for two items, if
Yes,
so you're asking for security cameras, that's kind of being one, and then the policy, which is a question.
Well, the security cameras are we're taking them out of our building budget, and they're $800. We've already ordered the judge told me to order those and get them in there. And I talked to Jason in IT, and he said to get a good quality camera instead of a piece of junk for $200, $300. And that's where we got those ordered already.
So you don't necessarily need our approval on the cameras.
No, because they're under budget.
in
Yeah,
your budget.
they're under $1,000 in the budget.
The security fence out there,
We have a fence out there, but people can come down the east side of the building and come in there. That's where they break in all the time. Strict Watkins, the old commissioner, they go down that street and they come across, and there's a barbed wire fence or whatever we have out there, and they can just come in that way easily. But we haven't had a break-in since we stopped working inmates out there. We used to work inmates out there for about, I don't know, forever. And we are licensed as a jailer also.
What is the county policy? I'm sorry.
It just says we can't carry without authorization in the county building. But the law says we can carry anywhere it's not posted. Like the courthouse has a 30-06 sign. You can't come into there, you can't come into the hospital, and stuff like that.
Chief Deputy? Yes, sir. Thoughts, what are your thoughts?
I think as far as the sheriff's office is concerned, I mean, it's county policy. We probably want to know who, is carrying in case we do have something that occurred out there that we get called on, but I don't think, now you talking about just your area out there at the building? Or are you talking about when y'all are out working at another site too?
Well, I mean, to carry it, we can't just leave it in the office. We carry it with us everywhere.
And there's only 3 of y'all that have it?
Yeah, at the moment, there's only 3 of us, me, Donnie Ravis, and Eddie Franks, and he's the road foreman.
So, I mean, we don't have a problem with it. The supervisor and the person in control of his employees, like I say, that we would like to know who, have a list of services.
We're well aware of the responsibilities. I mean, that's the last resort. We're gonna call 911 first. But I'd rather have a gun and not need it than need a gun and not have it.
You're not advocating for all employees.
No, well, just us that are licensed. There's only 3 of us that are licensed. And we've done the certification, the background, the fingerprinting, and the qualification for it.
The way the policy is stated, as you say, if that's in fact the way it's written, out on a job site, you could carry.
Yes, it
If
says
you
work
have it
site.
concealed.
On the work site. Well, it just says
But not on the
accountability.
bill.
Yeah, it just says in the county building, I believe, but like I said,
I think that, I mean, as a practical matter, most of our employees work in one of these 3 buildings downtown where you can't carry a handgun anyway, anybody. But because we've got courts, and so we just recently decided to stay away from that. Now, the law's changed on any other county building which is not holding the court, anybody can wear a gun in the building. So I just kind of talking to Scott, and we talked about this the other day too. And, I mean, probably state law in that situation sort of trumps our policy. I mean, it makes sense that, I mean, state in its wisdom, will allow ordinary citizens to carry a concealed permit or even open permit as of January 1st.
Well, given that, then does that in any way, put the county in any type of liability, issue with me?
The potential liability lies in preventing somebody who has a license from carrying on the premises, which conceivably could include employees.
Yeah, in other words, we think that.
There is potential liability if they send a letter complaining of policy, and we don't correct it within the window of opportunity to correct the policy, then yes, there is potential liability.
What about liability on the other end, if there's an employee, indeed there is an altercation of some type and the gunfire is used and they're kind of on the clock at the time? What is the liability like for the county in that kind of
That's still kind of an unknown, because it hasn't fleshed out yet. The law is still some new. Typically, let's assume that, well, let me back up. As far as state law goes, because an employee would probably be using their own gun, the county's not issuing them guns, there's probably not a viable Tort Claims Act type lawsuit in that situation. The real problematic question would be whether there's a civil rights claim under federal law. Generally speaking, that requires that the injury that occurs be caused by a county policy or custom. So here, it wouldn't, given what Dave and I are talking about, at least as far as where we stand right now as of January 1, it wouldn't really be a county policy at work. It would be state law.
But the county would have to develop some type of policy in order to pass this.
Well, what the county would have to do, we already know that for buildings where there's no court, we're gonna have to amend our signage. That we don't have the wherewithal under county law, state law now, to prevent at least citizens from bringing guns in a building where there's not a court facility, or a building where there's a meeting properly noticed under the Meetings Act when that meeting is taking place. Other than that, our ability to bar people from bringing guns in has been severely circumscribed by state law.
But in this particular issue, this case, if we pass this, we'll be developing policy, correct? And that.
Correct. I mean, now I will say, if we get a lawsuit, I can tell you, my argument is going to be all we're doing is following state law.
Yeah, but why would we need to pass a policy?
Well, that's just it. I think
If we're following state law.
Yeah, I think, at the very, if you do anything, I think it would be to recognize that our policy prohibiting employees from carrying a weapon onto a facility that's not one of these court, a facility where there is a court sitting, has been superseded by state law.
And to answer your question about who's liable, when we took the class, as soon as you pull that weapon out and you fire it, you're responsible for that bullet. If you miss who you're shooting at or whatever, and it hits somebody else, you're responsible for that bullet. once it leaves the chamber, you're responsible for it, nobody else.
And under state law too, under the Tort Claims Act, we are really only liable for injuries caused by the negligent use of county property.
As long as we don't issue.
Right, and plus there's the negligence issue too. If somebody pulls out a gun and fires it, they're doing so intentionally. Whether they hit what they're aiming at is largely irrelevant to the inquiry into what was the mindset of the actor who committed the tort. And intentional torts are excluded under the Tort Claims Act, assault being the primary concern. So you have that.
So it appears that there would be no action necessary from us other than to kind of hear the discussion with state law superseding that does not
Sure.
have court buildings in it. So
Yeah.
I do think it's prudent. I like the idea, and I don't think it's a restriction on as far as state law. I like the idea of the sheriff's department knowing who's licensed.
Sure, I think that's a reasonable accommodation to law enforcement concerns, very nice.
Yeah, just so.
So they know if they show up out there, they know who the good guys are. Yeah.
are you a good guy, Sebastian?
Oh, yeah. I like Johnny every day.
Don't have to wear wide hats.
So do we need any, we don't need anything?
I have another. Item number 13 is to hear a report on various Potter County projects and take any action necessary. Mike's not here.
See, Nick, you want to add
What's that?
to the Potter County projects, anything?
No,
you wanna add?
if you have some questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Item 14, surplus property to consider action on allowing the auto tax force to utilize 3 Tahoes and that are scheduled to go into auction until the vehicles purchased for the auto task force are received.
You approved maybe a month ago the purchase of vehicles out of the new grant for the auto task force in order for them to use those. Well, it's going to be 90 to 120 days till those come in. And so we have 8 old sheriff patrol vehicles that are slated to go to auction. And so we're just asking permission for them to use 3 of them until their vehicles do come in. And then they'll come back to us to be sold.
Those are the 8 that we're replacing on further license.
No, this is 8 that we replaced last year. So they're out of service, not being used at this point. The 3 that we'd be using for the task force.
I move we allow the auto tax force to utilize the 3 Tahoes that were scheduled to go out with their vehicles that have been purchased to ride.
Second.
Second to proceed with this, auto task force and allow the 3 Tahoes to go action to be able to purchase. Favors. Take passes, please. 15, wireless project, consider action upon approving the proposal for the wireless connection of the Santa Fe building, district course building, and road and grid farm. The project will be awarded to Tower Service Company in the amount of $22,030.99, and funds are budgeted in the 2015-16 fiscal year.
Before court, I passed out a packet that needs to replace what was in your packet for this item. Late Thursday and into Friday, Jason and myself were in talks with the company we were gonna award it to, and we found out that they actually had not quoted the entire project like we asked for. And so there's actually gonna be a modification to who we're recommending to award that project to. If you look at your new packet, you can look at the new number that the company we were gonna award it to, what their new number is, accounting for the entire project, and the other company had bid it correctly the first time. So we're asking actually to award that project to Comtech in the amount of $26,830. And that is still within budget, and it was budgeted funds for this fiscal year.
And David, is this to improve the strength, like the wireless strength? Is that what the towers?
Currently we don't have wireless connections, so we go over either Sunlink connection. I don't know if Katie knows for sure. But
This is actually a backup. In the event that we had a major fiber cut, like with all the construction that's going on downtown, some of our outlying buildings wouldn't have connectivity for days while we repaired the fiber. So this is actually just a backup for all of our county buildings.
26,830.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we approve the proposal for the wireless connection of the Santa Fe Building, District Court Building, and Road and Bridge Barn in the amount of $26,830 to Comtech as presented in the proposal.
Second. Moving second to allow the approval for water connection for the three buildings noted in the amount of, to the Power Service Company in the amount of $26,230. Those in favor? Passes 3-0. Item 16, fiber optic cable project. Consider an act upon approving a proposal for a new fiber optic cable run between Santa Fe Building, District Courts Building, and Sheriff's Office. And the project will be awarded to Atlas Group in the amount of $12,387.50. And funds are budgeted for this year.
This is to replace our current fiber between the buildings listed. I believe it's about 20 years old. Jason will be able to answer that, I'm not for sure, but the conduit, the runs are already in place, so this will just be pulling the new wire to replace the old wire that's already there. There were only 2 companies in town that would even entertain that, and the job wasn't big enough for any out-of-town companies to want to provide any quotes on it. So, but it is within budget, and it was budgeted for this fiscal year.
And this is to increase our connectivity by like 10%, or I'm sorry, 10 times what we're using right now. Okay.
Move, we approve the awarding of the new fiber optic cable run between Santa Fe District Courts and Sheriff's Office to Atlas Group for $12,387.50.
Second. It's been motion and approved to approve of the awarded to Atlas Group in the amount of $12,387.50. Those in favor? Passes 3-0. Item 17 is equipment purchase, and is to consider an act upon the following. I'll read the listed items. The purchase of load balancer for CDWG in the amount of $9,875 from Contract National IT Solutions 130733 for the Tyler Court Software Project. The funds budgeted in this current fiscal year. And B, the purchase of servers and switches from Dell in the amount of $60,631.45 from Contract YR SDE-1951 for the Tyler Court Software Project. Funds also budgeted for this fiscal year. The purchase of a phone switch from Communications in the amount of $5,764.48 from the form of proposal number 1088-14. Funds also for this fiscal year budget. I know that's an issue of concern, but I think as far as moving forward, this was already basically approved that, and get the work and move forward with it. So there's some other issues of concern.
Yeah, my only question is on items A and B, which is for the Tyler Court package. I'm assuming this is the initiative that you and Carolyn are working on. And so I was the nay vote on the budget in terms of purchasing that, so I'd like to be consistent with my nay vote on that. I recognize that we only have 3 today. I'm not sure if this is an emergent purchase or if this can be, I would certainly not delay. I mean, I'm prepared to vote that way, but.
2 would make a winning vote.
Oh, you are correct. You are correct. Commissioner.
Even though I've had some issue concerns, I did vote positive at to move the forward project on. So, and I'll make a motion to approve of the considerations for the 3 listed items that are so noted.
Commissioner, would you mind taking A and B together if I may so boldly ask, just because it is Tyler and C is a separate item?
Absolutely. As one of those items A and B, make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to approve those items A and B. Those in favor, show of hands. And those opposed, so it passes 2-1. Item C, the purchase of a phone switch from Pathway Communications in the amount of $5,764.48 from Farm Proposals, noted of 1088-14 for this fiscal year.
I move to approve, equipment purchase C as stated.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve and second to approve of the switch from Pathway Communications in the amount of $5,764.48. Those in favor, show of hands. Passes 3-0. Okay, item 18, vehicle purchase, we consider an act upon the following. We'll take them one by one. Purchase of 8 police SUVs from Caldwell Country Chevrolet in the amount of $308,252, utilizing Bible contract number 430-13, funds budget for this fiscal year. Item D, the purchase of 1 3/4-ton pickup from Caldwell Country Chevrolet in the amount of $30,261, utilizing Bible contract 430-13 for this fiscal year. Item C, the purchase of 1 police SUV from Caldwell Country Chevrolet in the amount of $38,194, utilizing Bible contract, same contract number for this fiscal year. Item D, purchase of 1 police SUV from Caldwell County Chevrolet in the amount of $38,194, utilizing Bible contract 430-13 this fiscal year. Any discussion?
I think item A, Commissioner, was what your question might have been on the fleet, that the 3 or 4 will go to the task force. The 8 that are being replaced from the sheriff's office, that's from this inventory that we're replacing, is that right, David?
No, it was from the 8 we bought last year, actually. That's the 8, we've got 8 old ones already sitting at the auction barn ready to be auctioned off.
Mm-hmm.
And those replace the 8 that we bought the sheriff's office last year. And so these 8 they'll turn 8 more in for these right here. These probably won't come in until January, February. And so by the time they switch their equipment, it's usually middle of summer before we get the 8 in return for these right here.
Okay. I think the replacement schedule may be, just a conversation to entertain and, a future court of what that looks like. I know that we addressed that during budget, but there's a lot that happens during those few days. So something we've kind of loosely thrown around, and we certainly don't want to make any decisions like this without the judge, but maybe just holding some public workshops of some type, some little 2-hour sessions or hour session where we can dedicate to a topic like this, inventory. We talked about salaries at HR, so there's been a lot of just topics that we never, we just don't have time for. So this might be something that would warrant just a conversation around what that fleet is like, what those decisions are, how we rotate those out, especially as we seem to be getting more aggressive with our departments and our preventative schedule, which we should be. But that's just kind of a thought I want to share with the board.
Discussion has been delayed with the county, so I think those are good suggestions. We do need to develop, I think, a better preventative maintenance for all our infrastructure, the county. That's something Mike and I have visited with as well, so we can indulge in better discussions at a future court. So items listed A, B, C, and D.
I make a motion to approve as stated.
Second. Items listed to approve A, B, C, and D, so noted. Also, second, those in favor, show of hands. Passes 3-0. Item number 19, formal bid renewal. To consider and act upon renewal formal bid number 1074-13, electrical services with Moore Electric for the contract period 11/1/2015 through 10/31/2016.
This is our electrical maintenance contract. too big for Mike's crew with a master electrician. And, this will be the third year of a 3-year contract, that we're asking renewal for. The labor they can charge is going up 1%, but the market on materials is staying the same. And, last year we spent approximately $92,000. So, the year before that, we spent about 116, so we actually went down a little this last fiscal year.
Move we approve the renewal of formal bid 107413 for electrical services with More Electric.
Second. Motion to approve formal bid 1074-13 to electrical services with More Electric. Second. Those in favor, vote yes. Passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Item 20, constable vehicle decal designs. We consider an act upon approving vehicle decal designs for constable precinct.
This is kind of a precedent we have done the last 8 years. Anytime an official wants to put decals on their vehicle, we brought it to the court for approval. And so that's why it's on here today.
Do we have any consistency in these decals? Everybody could have a different one. Is that right?
That's
What's the cost for these decals?
For that whole wrap of the vehicle, it's gonna be 26, I believe, from.
2,600.
Oh, that's 2,600. And where are you requesting, what budget line item did that come from?
It came from last year's, vehicle equipment.
From last year's, or this year?
That's this page 22.
26.
Yeah, this year.
And it's out of the vehicle maintenance account? How much is in that account, Carrie, do you know, for the constable? 5%. Okay. And is there a reason that you want a new wrap or a different wrap? I'm not sure if the other one's chipped. I haven't seen the vehicle in a long time.
It is chipped and it is peeling and there's hail damage, and according to Greg at Wilburn, this will cover that, cover the scratches, cover the hail damage, and just give the vehicle a new look.
Kind of fading to it.
And it is
I'm sorry.
It's kind of fading.
It's fading, okay, I hadn't seen the vehicle probably a year or so with the water accident, so that's probably, it's been a while.
I will, motion to approve the vehicle decal designs for Constable Precinct 2 in the amount of, what was that, 2,600? 2,600.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve, decals, design for Precinct, Constable 2. And second, those in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, passes 2-1.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Item 21, vehicle employment items. We consider action on the following employment items. Road and Bridge, the discharge of James Clay as seasonal more effective September 29, 2015.
Make a motion that we approve the employment items as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve and second to approve the employment item. Those in favor, vote yes. That's 3-0. I still don't see that. Anyway, let's talk about jail report. I think it's 498. Is that correct, Chief?
Yes, sir. That includes 16, deferred timers, so they get released in the morning, so 16 was 4. I'm not sure what the sheriff actually gives y'all, if he gives you that amount, or if he gives you the less than 16.
Yeah, what I had was the 482 total, 93 female.
And how many?
85% in the category of felony and 15% misdemeanor.
Yes.
And is those misdemeanors, they stand alone in other words, they don't have, acquired, felony attached to that, it's just a misdemeanors?
It's a possibility that they have, felonies also. true, you could have somebody with a felony that had 3 or 4 misdemeanors. Usually, the misdemeanors, most of the time, if you have a felony, the misdemeanors are dropped, and meaning that they take the felony charge, but they're still in our custody, and they still show those charges until all of them have been disposed of, according to whichever prosecutor, however the case goes.
All right, thanks, Chief. Item 23, county insurance items.
No, nothing to report.
Okay. Nothing for executive session today? No, sir. Anything, to come before the court this morning?